My friends, liberty is a hoax. We need an action plan today. We need the United States to come out today and say they are for protecting, as they promised, the people of Camp Liberty, and that we're not going to let them have any more people die at the hands of the Iranian secret police and their collaborators in the Iraqi government. The United States has a responsibility to those 6 people who were killed. We have our word that we're going to protect them. We know now that the blood of those innocent martyrs that were killed last night are on Martin Kubler's hands today. Martin Kubler ought to resign his position at the United Nations in disgrace. And the United States ought to take every step necessary today to ensure the protection of the people they promised to protect, whether that means returning them to a safer location in Camp Ashraf, which has an 80-mile protective barrier, because no longer can it be said that liberty is safe.
Today, we're forced to deal with murder, cold-blooded murder that occurred just a few hours ago. Shame on the United Nations and shame on the United States Department of State. These murders this morning did not have to take place. They should not have taken place. There is no reason that they should have occurred. These people moved at the urging of the United Nations and the Secretary of State of the United States. They were under the protection of the United Nations and the United States. There was no reason for this move. We said that a year ago. There was no reason for it. These people were in Ashraf. These people could have been relocated from Ashraf to any number of countries. The relocation could have been done at Ashraf expeditiously and sensibly. There never was a reason for this move. But the United Nations, United States Department of State, the Iraqi government insisted on it. About a year ago, in front of a gathering like this, I said that it looked like Camp Liberty would be a concentration camp. When I met on, I believe it was July 1st of 2012 with Martin Kubler in Paris, with Judge Mukasey present and a number of our colleagues, he was insulted that I called it a concentration camp. Well, Martin Kubler, it is not only a concentration camp, it's a killing field. And you, Martin Kubler, watched it become a concentration camp. You allowed it to become a concentration camp, and you permitted it to become a killing field, and the responsibility is directly on your hands. You shouldn't resign. Ban Ki-moon should fire you today. As Patrick Kennedy pointed out, responsibility is not just on the United Nations. Responsibility, unfortunately, and it breaks my heart to say this, is on my country as well. It's on the United States. First of all, when these people originally gave up their arms, they handed them over to the United States military. And as military leader after military leader has told you at conferences like this, they were promised, solemnly promised, the protection of the United States of America.
The celebration that we hope to achieve and advocate today has been stolen from us in this very, very sad and tragic attack on Camp Liberty. And I would like to join all of my colleagues on the dais in expressing our deepest condolences for your great loss. This is not the first time, sadly, that attacks and massacres of this nature has taken place and befallen the people of Camp Ashraf and the men and women of Camp Liberty. Camp Liberty has a name that is not worthy of a prison, which it has become.
Today we see the consequence. Today at Camp Liberty we see the consequence of a failure on the part of this administration to keep its promise, not just to the people of Camp Liberty, but to the people of this country and the people of the region, the people of the world, to stand up for the values that this country says that we are willing to fight for and sacrifice for. We made a promise to the people at Camp Ashraf, and we broke that promise and people died. This is indeed a tragic day, but one that we must find even increased resolve that the sacrifice of the 6 people and dozens more with their injuries suffered, and daily they suffer in Camp Liberty. Daily they will suffer in Camp Liberty, in fear, in substandard living conditions, with lack of freedom. They will continue to suffer until the world, and particularly the United States, turns their attention and does something now to solve this human crisis.
And Mayor Giuliani and I traveled to Paris and met with Mrs. Rajavi and with Martin Kobler, and with his assurance, his two-faced, duplicitous, lying assurance that the residents of Ashraf, as they then were, would be protected if they moved to Camp Liberty, we urged her. And I feel terribly guilty about this. We urged her to please ask the residents of Ashraf to move peacefully to Camp Liberty, because we were told by Martin Kobler that that's where the UN High Commissioner for Refugees could conduct interviews in aid of getting people out. And so she did, and so they did, and nothing happened. Well, UNHCR has done whatever interviewing it has to do, and everybody, other than the people who have died in the interim, are still at Camp Liberty. What did Martin Kobler say this morning when he heard about this attack? He said that explosions had occurred in the camp, as if it were spontaneous. And then he said that Iraqi policemen had been injured in the attack, as if to suggest that somehow the Iraqis weren't responsible for it. You mean to say that the United Nations can't oppose this? Nonsense. The Security Council can act. Let them act. And whether they act or not, the United States put the residents of Liberty in the position they are in. We have a moral responsibility to get them out of it, and to get them out of it now.
Camp Liberty is unspeakably sad. Our hope for those of you in this room who have loved ones who are there, and for the people who are there suffering as they are today and have been for so long, is for their freedom. And I know that working together, we can do what is right for those people at Camp Liberty. I know it can be done.
What a tragedy it is that those inalienable rights outlined in our Declaration of Independence and loved by everyone around the world were violated in a place named Camp Liberty.
I had asked the organizers for an update on the conditions in Camp Liberty, a camp that had been sold as a temporary transit location, where the residents of Ashraf found themselves after transfer with an understanding that they would be both protected and repatriated. Liberty is what this camp is and what it was meant to provide. Now, after last night's events, betrays the cruel deceit that was visited upon us. You know the report I received before last night about insanitary and inhumane living conditions. But what happened this morning is now the most serious, troubling, and dare I say, criminal act that we have seen thus far. 6 dead and over 100 wounded. And today we rededicate ourselves for justice, for your dignity, for your safety, and for your repatriation. If last night's attack on Liberty was meant to silence and to intimidate us, our message to Iran and to the Iraqi government is, you lose. We are here. We are here. We are here, and we will remain here, and we will not be silenced until there is a democratic and free Iran.